was necessary. There was also in 1941 bitter labor strife at Disney, and a lot of those wounds did not heal. Some of them didn't heal ever. Some of them took time to heal. So to get everybody together again on the same page, to tell a classic fairy tale story, took a little time.
And this was something they had kind of been planning on for years. They did a laugh-a-gram, they were thinking of making a silly symphony.
Sure.
And then they were like, this needs to be a full-blown movie.
Right. They thought about Alice in Wonderland, which they did develop, and they thought about Peter Pan, which they also developed. Those all would have happened in the 40s had the war not interfered.
So the last feature length was Bambi.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And audiences were craving a new Walt Disney film. And they wanted something like this. But Walt and his team wanted to make sure that they were not just rehashing Snow White. They wanted to do something, well, they wanted to be better. They were always looking to improve and top what they'd done before. And that involved getting the right story nailed down, doing better animation on the prince. They always thought that was the one Achilles heel of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That the prince, though he's in it very little.
Yeah, he's in it very little.
Yeah, they thought he was stilted.
Well,
very self-critical.
they in earlier versions of it, they had him in it more in earlier story planning for the film. But then he's in it hardly ever.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because he's got two voices. He has a singing voice and a speaking voice, and he says two friggin' lines. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. He needed a better agent. So, but when it came time to cast the voices for Cinderella, for the speaking voices, for the character roles, they turned to the world of radio. For the little kids in the audience, radio. It was like podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
Except you had to end it on time.
They can go on, can't they?
Radio was the dominant entertainment medium. Television was on the horizon, but radio was something everybody listened to, and there were scores and scores of wonderful actors, and they had their pick. So when you hear the voice singing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo and speaking the lines of the fairy godmother, that's Verna Felton, who I used to watch on television as a kid on a show called December Bride. But murmur of recognition, I'm glad. But she was a veteran radio actress. She played all kinds of characters. She played Dennis Day's mother on a sitcom that he had for a little while.
And I know she did a lot of work for Disney.
Oh, yes.
And before that, she was in Dumbo, right?
Oh, yeah. She was one of their stable of
She was
versatile.
She was really versatile.
Oh, yeah. She could do anything. She could play a battle axe. She could play a
Queen,
tender, yeah.
Queen of Hearts too.
Yep.
So,
And then Eleanor Audley, who plays the cool stepmother.
the greatest. The greatest.
My wife was an especially keen ear for voices. We listen to old radio shows, as we do when we're driving sometimes. She'll say, Eleanor Audley.
No, it's distinct.
Very distinct.
It really is. And she was Maleficent, of course, too. But she also did the live action model.
Yeah.
Of this movie, which they filmed this whole movie.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to get to animating everything.
Well, they didn't,
because it was costly.
they didn't want to trace.
It wasn't rotoscoping.
It wasn't rotoscoping. It's not tracing
It wasn't.
literally frame by frame. But it's more like an artist uses a model, right?
Yep.
An artist will have a model pose.
And the animators didn't like the idea at first, but then at the end, it
really
saved a lot of money and it helped.
When they were doing Snow White, no one had gone into that territory of trying to imitate reality to some degree. And one of the problems they had was the twirling of her skirt. And so the woman, a high school kid who later became March champion, posed for Snow White and live action footage just to see the folds of the dress, and the turn, the movement. They made very good use of that. They called it reference footage. And there are now stills of some of that reference footage.
Yes, and Helene Stanley did the live action stuff for Cinderella, and Eileen Woods, who did the demos
Yeah.
for Jay Livingston and Mr. Mack, I forget his first name. And she did the demos, and Walt Disney heard it, and she got the job.
Yeah. And well, again, as there were countless radio actors to choose from, there were big band singers. Lots and lots of them. Not everybody became a Frank Sinatra or a Doris Day out of that era, but there were lots of good, capable vocalists who worked with the bands. And one of them was a young guy named Michael Douglas, who became the TV host, Mike Douglas.
Mike Douglas from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the singing voice of the Prince. And Eileen Woods later married the Tonight Show drummer Ed Shaughnessy.
Wow.
Is Cinderella.
And she told the story. One of my favorite scenes of this movie is when she's singing Sweet Nightingale, and the stepsisters are having a singing lesson, and they're terrible. And she's washing the floor, and she starts to sing, and all those bubbles go up in the air, and she's reflected, and then she starts harmonizing with herself. And according to Eileen Woods, that was Walt Disney's idea. It was at a time when they were just starting to kind of overdub vocals like that.
Multi-tracking was very advanced idea.
Yeah, Les Paul had started developing supposedly. Yeah, it's beautifully done. And just, infusing all the mice and the animals just works brilliantly. And there's so much suspense in this movie.
Yep.
And every few scenes there's this scene that you're like, are they gonna make it? Or stealing beads, getting the key up there.
You feel it. They play your emotions really well. And this is my daughter's favorite Disney classic.
It's got good taste.
And, well, yeah. What I like about it, and I recommend this film a lot to people because they tend to pigeonhole Disney films sometimes. And I think it's a very contemporary telling of the story because this Cinderella is not a victim. She's never a victim. She's abused by her stepsisters and made to cry and suffer. But she has an indomitable spirit, and she's not waiting for a prince to come and solve her problems. She is just doing it. She's just moving ahead, moving forward in a very proactive way.
And there's a moment that's very revealing of her character and what is going on, I think, is when they're all waiting for the Duke to come to the slipper. She kind of goes into this daze and they're throwing clothes at her and she just kind of hands them back and walks away. And it's like, that's a great moment. And, and then they, lock her up. But, they had to do something. It needed a climax. But, yeah, I mean, and the style of this film, I mean, when you read about this film, it's Mary Blair and Mary Blair.
Mary Blair
was one of the great Disney stylists or inspirational sketchers.
She was Walt's favorite, I guess.
And some of the other Indians didn't like
Well, no, there are in any group artists.
Especially as a woman.
Yeah, I mean, they're artists first and foremost.
Yes.
And you're already trying to corral the artists to do the same design drawing, a character. That's tough right there. But to get artists to cooperate with each other and follow the direction of a strong leader is a lot. But Mary Blair used to do these incredible paintings just as inspirational.
Inspirational sketches?
Blueprints.
Yeah. Of what?
Visual blueprints for ideas, of what colors to use and how to make a setting more interesting, more colorful.
And what the style of the film would ultimately be. Also,
right. Sometimes she was listened to, sometimes she wasn't.
As were all of them, I guess.
Yeah. Walt was her patron saint, and he saw her through, and took what he wanted to take and ignored what he wanted to ignore. Well, when you're the boss, you can do that.
That's right, but you know, he when he said something, he knew about music too. He knew that you needed songs to progress the plot.
He had incredible instinct.
Yes.
He was not a highly educated person.
And he wasn't there for this whole film. He was away at points, and then he'd come back and be like, redo that, fix that. Yeah, I mean, I think we should show it. And
yes.
You're gonna love it. You haven't seen it. If you have seen it, you know, everyone lives in the end, just so you know. So, Leonard, thank you. I can't thank you enough. I wish we could talk for hours, but you know, we gotta wrap it up because you know, we could go on singing till the cows come home. So here it is from 1950. Walt Disney's
Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Yay!